last thoughts on the astrology of the American election that happens tomorrow. In all the intensity and excitement, edge of our seat moment it is, welcome. This is Lydia with the Feng Shui and Bazi Chinese Astrology channel. And on this channel, I often like to read the charts of famous people. I think it helps us to better understand our own lives and our own charts. So welcome. If astrology is something that you're interested in, and especially Bazi Chinese Astrology, please subscribe, hit the bell, and hit like if you like the video. Just saying, this is a political commentary that is totally 100% based on astrology, nothing else. I am as objective as humanly possible with these readings, so please keep your comments kind and respectful always. So, I can tell you something now. At the beginning of 2024, year of the Yangwood Dragon, I said that I thought that there would be a disruptor. The disruptor, you may or may not have guessed, is Bobby Kennedy Jr. And I really thought that in the month of October, which ends November 8th, according to the Chinese calendar, something massive was going to happen to Trump, whose health is not good. And you can check many other notable, reputable astrologers who also concur with that. You have to look at just the intensity of the situation. These people haven't had a day off and I don't know when. They're going round the clock, and lifestyle has a lot to do with our health. And when you've got a crazy lifestyle and you happen to be an older person like Trump, you've got to be careful. Now, in this video, I'm going to give you a prediction forecast for 2025 to better help us to understand if one of these people, it looks like a more definitive sign. But here's the thing. Part of the reason I thought that Bobby Kennedy Jr. was going to be our surprise dark horse was that his chart is the only one that wasn't full of conflict. He has no conflict in it at all. His chart actually spoke of somebody coming in to bring us a revolution, a great renaissance. More on that in a minute. So if we look at Donald Trump, who moved into a new luck cycle a year ago, as we all do every 10 years, we go through luck cycles determined by your birthday and time. His chart is so out of balance because it's all about what supports him and himself. So there is hardly any metal, there is no water, and there is weak wood in his chart because it is so hot and dry. And this new luck cycle of the tiger brings in a fire penalty with his hour of the snake. It speaks of somebody dealing with a lot of lawsuits, financial loss, bankruptcy, illness, even death. And this fire penalty is going to be on steroids for people who have this already in their charts in 2025. In fact, I think it's going to be something quite surprising. And just throwing it out there, Martha Stewart is the video I'm doing next because her fire penalty, the way that it plays out in her life is such a great example of how astrology can be actualized in our lives. So that it's not just words, it's not just a prediction, you're actually seeing it play out. Now, Trump born in the year of the dog, this shows a lot of movement for him in this year of the dragon. And this year Like the astrology of the election day for Trump highlights again the year of the Yangwood dragon, the month of Yangwood dog. Yangwood for Trump really speaks of his career. It speaks of all of his responsibilities. The Yang earth of both the dragon and the dog speak of him in kind of grappling with his identity. Who am I? Now, I say that because, yes, it can also be somebody taking on new roles, but it can also, for someone of this age, be cognitive decline. It can be a loss of self. I don't know who I am, right? Disorienting in a way. Speaks of loss of money. And the year speaks of some underlying shift, something going on with his career. It speaks of an underlying health issue. We get to the month of October and we see that there is action and backing going on in his chart. The dog in and of itself is hot and dry. There is a lot in the elements that is fueling the imbalance in his chart. The day of the election, which is yin water rooster, brings in a heightened, the underground health issue becomes actualized. We see it. Something could happen with him on election day. Like the pressure and the intensity of the situation, his lifestyle, his, just like all that he's done. I mean, he is just nonstop going. But for someone of his age, that is a hard thing when you're not healthy. So that is something to really look at. The day of the election also speaks of a day of taking action. Now, the interesting thing is that this luck cycle that he just has been in for the last year, there is not only a fire penalty, but the snake and the tiger harm wood. And wood is the element that represents his career. So it feels like his career is taking a hit. There's also a self penalty going on in his chart that is kind of like very fixated on old patterns of thinking. And a lot of the pieces and parts of his chart, everything is motivating and fueling this hot dryness. It is not favorable. Like one of the things I would be concerned about is stroke or a heart attack. It's really serious. So you then look at what is 2025 for him. Well, the yin wood speaks of a massive change in his career. Okay, well, that change could be presidency. It could also be that he is doing some other work. What is the snake speaking of? The snake speaks of government and politics. And it also speaks of a lot of change. And that change could be retaliatory, a revolution, a civil war. It can be violent. Change can be all kinds of things, right? And it's also him playing new roles. Now with that, it could be that he is taking on a different role in politics. Maybe he's doing something else that is influencing the political scene, okay? And that he is somehow fueling a change. Like kind of like the insurrection. Okay, on January 6th. Sorry, brain fart. So his next year is an interesting thing. It hits right up against his career. Things can break open, and it could be that even if he loses the election, that he still is wielding an influence and a power from a different platform. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, her astrology for Election Day speaks of a lot of action, and the yang earth of the dragon and dog speak of a big, massive movement focused on her career. The year of the dragon, and again, remember, all of these parts are banging, conflict. A lot is breaking open or breaking apart, depending on how things go. The year speaks of big change for her and playing new roles. Going from the vice president to running for president. Just saying. The month speaks of not only change going on within her career, a lot going on in her career. And it's not easy. This is a challenging path that she's on. And there is government. There is success. There is money. The day of the yin water rooster for her speaks of her taking on new roles, and it speaks of government and politics in that it looks like she could be the winner here. Going into 2025, she's got the nobleman star. And this is a star that brings you protection. It's like your angels are coming in, giving you support, giving you protection. So when we look at her 2025, we see somebody going into a year of great transformative change. It could be a trend of something like a revolution or a renaissance. Because when you look at how astrology right now, you look at predictions that are going on for 2025, for this country, for these politicians. When you look at this, a lot of astrology seems to be mirroring what the news gives us, which is a lot of darkness, shadow. Why do we keep going for the shadow, that which makes us scared and destabilized, insecure, anxious? Why is that? Because I was thinking to myself the other day, wait a minute, why do we have to be afraid of a civil war or a backlash from this election? Why can't we see that whoever wins doesn't enact a renaissance where the United States has a renewal and a re-identifying of its, a re-identification that leads to positive change, innovation, as we go into the age of Aquarius in period 9 Feng Shui? Why can't it be that way? Why is it that we go to the shadow and not the light? And it's not to say that there isn't going to be some background shenanigans. That is highly likely. But I'm not going to sit here and say that the United States is going into a full-on war. I really want to believe that we're going into a renaissance. And for her, this coming year is that. And I'll put a link below to the video that I did about the forecast for the United States, because it speaks to all this. And then the snake for Kamala Harris brings in a fire penalty to her day master of the tiger. And it weakens her wood. Wood is the element that gives her motivation to go, do, be. And she's got to be careful of her health, her safety. The snake highlights her health. And it's an important thing that she's got to really be careful of her, that she is safe. There is backing for her, and there is a focus on an underground focus on a continual change and challenge with her career. In a lot of ways, her astrology is far better than Trump's. Astrologically speaking, does that align with her winning? It could. But I'll leave you with this, because I think it's really important. Win or lose, my prayer is that there is a big enough, like that the candidate that wins by a margin large enough that there is no contest as to who wins, that it is very obvious, as in a landslide. And I think the fact that Harris has that nobleman star next year, I think that there is a lot of astrology, even though they both are very conflicted. I think it leans stronger for her. And I'm sure she will be glad when this year is over. It is just a very conflicted, tough, aggravated situation in her astrology. Yeah. She's fighting the fight of her life. And this woman is strong. She is one strong, fierce person, a powerful force to be a world leader, for sure. And when you look at the astrology of the United States, perhaps it leans this way. But you know what, when we look at the shadow and the light, and I've mentioned this with our astrology, right? You know that you can have somebody that is, for instance, I love popping off to look at books because books are everything. So, when you look at, for instance, Kamala Harris, all right, so she's born on the day of the tiger. And the tiger is very, not impulsive like a horse, but more like they really go after something. It's perfect role for her as a prosecutor or a politician. She gets a vision on something, she gets an idea about something, she is going to go for it. Now, when you look at the shadow and the light of a personality, a tiger person like her is brave, charming, bold and optimistic, passionate and independent. But there's the shadow where she can be very aggressive and angry and rebellious and impatient and reckless, right? And we see some of that in her personality. So then we look at, okay, what do we look at with the sheep? Right? And the sheep is the day that Donald Trump is born. And for him, that makes him compassionate and creative, easygoing, gentle, sincere, careful, vulnerable. That's a sheep. They're also known as the peacemaker in the Chinese zodiac. The shadow side is eccentric and sensitive, pessimistic, naive, gullible, self-indulgent, and irresponsible. So we can play in the shadow and the light of astrology. The way you can look at our childhoods and the way that we were raised. And as we move through our life, the choices that we make and the situations that we find ourselves in that can push us into more of a light state of being or a shadow state of being. You know when you're in shadow. You know it. Because the shadow is agitated. It's anxious. It's volatile. I've been in relationships that bring out the worst in me. That's not a happy situation. I'd much rather be in a situation where I am being elevated into the lightness of myself. And that's what I want to challenge you with. You and me, going into 2025, into the age of Aquarius, into Feng Shui's period 9, the age of fire, as we move into this very much a baptism of fire year ahead. Choose the light side of yourself. As much as humanly possible, choose to be kind. Choose to be careful and patient, compassionate, empathetic, and move away from violence in the words that we say and the things that we do. We can transform and bring renaissance into this United States and into our world by living more in the light and less in the shadow. And I want you to contemplate that, please, what that means for you personally. And yeah, my great prayer is that tomorrow is a peaceful beginning of a transfer of power that will be celebrated in January. That this next few months allows for us as a nation and as a world to begin to shift more towards things that are light, because that's what we need. Please keep your comments kind and respectful. And until next time, friends, be well.